Cool. Oh, wow. We're almost at 10 concurrent viewers. I'm gonna be like ticking on this to make sure that the temperature is right here. Okay. We'll figure it out. You are technically running an event, and I see more than one person on the call. So your community is here, and they're demanding and wanting Scott and the Cleveland crew back. Cool. All right, we're at the time. So just some first orders of business. We're going to be, apologies if there's any hiccups today. I'm on a new laptop and I realized, oh yeah, I have to do the streaming thing. So if it kind of glitches out, it looks a little weird, apologies in advance. That's on me. First off, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to GDG Cleveland for having me at their first event in a pretty long time. The GDG community, the Google developers community, is a very awesome and welcoming community. We're always here to not only help one another out, no matter what city you're in, but also ability to present in great communities. So Scott and the crew at GDG Cleveland, thank you for having me as one of your inaugural events, or at least recover events from after a long break. So I'm hoping only the best from here. So obviously we're virtual. I can't hear you. So in lieu of that, put your chats or questions in the chat. I'll probably have enough time at the end for some Q&A for folks, or if you want to dive into any topics or conversation. We'll use the chat today to kind of drive that conversation. So let's see here. My slides are here. My content is here. Cool. All right. Well, with that being said, let's get things kicked off. Hey everybody. My name is Joel Vassallo. I am a senior director of platform engineering at a company known as the Aspen Group. If you're familiar with Aspen Dental, Clear Choice, WellNow, love it, my chapter, and maybe other companies. We service a lot. We're a healthcare company out of the Midwest, also known as the Midbest. We service from dentures all the way to vets and dogs. But aside of that, a little bit about myself, if I could find my cursor. Thank you. I am a Google developer expert in cloud. And I'm also a GDG Chicago co-organizer. So friends from Chicago, if you're tuning in from there, hello. If you're from Cleveland and you're in Chicago, by all means, find me, say hello. We're always friends. A little bit about my background of all these technologies. A lot of things that I do in my day-to-day or in my team's day-to-day is a lot of metrics and monitoring, a lot of Kubernetes and Istio, and definitely a lot of Linux. So from there and all things cloud. If you want to find me, there's my socials on X and LinkedIn. And yes, the sword is real and it's somewhere in this room, but I'm not going to pull it out right now. So this talk all started with, me and my team wondering, AI. So, what's this world that we live in? I mean, it's pretty much, we can't even go a day without seeing ads. I mean, we're at a point where we have Super Bowl ads about this technology. Heck, I think my parents even know what AI is, right? It's very much at the iPhone moment where everyone is at the very least talking about it. I think it all goes back to how did we end up here in the state. I think there's a timeline to this, but it's really much the innovation curve. And I think that right now we are still, believe it or not, in my opinion, in the early majority. We are definitely not even close to the top. We are past the, is this a real thing or not? We are at the point where I think either all technology that we're looking at has some sort of AI. Our bosses and teams are all asking us, what have you done with AI lately? Make your life better with AI. And then we have, all sorts of things in our day and our life. I mean, heck, or even our phones now have AI built in. So to help with this, I kind of try to always start with a little timeline. And this isn't so much of an AI timeline. Sorry if any there's machine learning people that know it's a whole fabled thing that this goes back to the 60s on. But really the answer in terms of most recent AI adoption all started really in 2022 when a thing called ChatGPT, in my opinion, started getting a lot of popularity. Again, are they the creators of AI? No. I mean, there's language models have existed and training has existed before that, but I argue that the first time that the aha moment triggered was when AI first hit the population, the masses. So we got things like, how many letters are there in 19? There are 9 letters in 19. No, there are 12 letters. You are correct. There are indeed 12 letters. Are you sure there are 12 letters? So we had something kind of funny. I remember when it first came out, it was kind of a funny little bot, and you would just be able to talk to it. But boy, did it hallucinate like no other. And it wasn't perfect, and you were rating responses. And I mean, we still had everyone trying to figure out how to get into this. From 2023, we had the visionaries in Bard and Claude starting to come out, and we also got graced with Spaghetti Will Smith. For those who don't know, I am validated now to say that this is officially a metric that people are using to justify how far along we're moving. If you want, in terms of video and image generation, believe it or not, yes, this is one of the first disturbing videos of Spaghetti Will Smith back in 2023. A lot of us probably saw this and said, see, this AI thing? It ain't gonna be here to stay. Look at this. This is ridiculous. People are talking about making movies with this thing. You're crazy. 2024 was the year of the engineer. We had everyone slapping a label with AI. Throw out those blockchains and NFTs. We're talking about AI now. So much for that. We had things like Windsurf and Gemini Code Assist and Copilot and Cursor and so much more. Everything at this era was now with AI, right? I mean, I still remember every vendor booth that I went to was just like, we have AI functionality. No, you just added a chatbot to your product and you're charging me a premium on it. And now, in 2025 and 2026, we're starting to see AI for the enterprise. This being things like Gemini and Gemini Enterprise. If any of you had a chance to go to Google Cloud Next last week, there was a lot of announcements around that, extending the platform into the enterprise scope. We now have Nano Banana Pro 2, that's I forgot to update the slides, and VO 3.1 for image and video generation, so we can see the content not only get smarter, but better. And ultimately, now we're starting to see, hey, this actually can be used for some functionality inside of our environments. And yes, we still have Will Smith eating spaghetti. How well it's changed since then. So at a high level, there's 2 forms of AI that I kind of like to just summarize with, is that there is generative AI and there is predictive AI. And both of them solve different things. And again, sorry if this is kind of like a high level lecture before and you want to just get to the part about cloud. I think it's important to understand this distinction. On the left with generative AI, you're generating new and creative responses. You're talking to something and making something that's new, that's never existed before. You are asking very open-ended questions and getting responses back. This type of AI learns from massive data sets. Think like Planetary and Google scale out there of existing content. It looks at its practical use cases are things like art and design, and obviously if you're a software developer or a cloud engineer, software development. However, it's not perfect. It's prone to hallucinations. If you don't give it enough context, it can make up things. I'm sure we've all prompted a chat assistant before and said, find me this bug, and it tells you here's a function, and you implement that function and it does not exist because it really, really wants to give you the best answer possible. And sometimes it's so good it even writes code that doesn't even exist yet. So it is prone to hallucinations, and it can be non-deterministic. On the right side, we have predictive AI. This is where you can forecast things based on historical and smaller sets of data. So similar to the generative AI aspect, you can still ask questions of this data. However, it's grounded in a very sound way of how that data was curated, right? So think of things like finance, healthcare, and retail and analytics, right? Those are the areas where, look at, like, for example, quarterly reports from a company. Pretty much well-established data points that you can ask questions, and there is no real guessing. The numbers are there. The problem with this is because you're looking at such a narrow lens, you really get limited responses, and the data is bad. You're going to get bad results, and even worse, potentially bias, right? So you need to make sure that when you're doing this, you have a large enough sample set of your data such that you can make accurate calls from. But majority of today's talk, we're going to be talking on generative AI, and that's what most people nowadays are using. So just go do that AI thing, right? AI, sprinkle it on top, productivity. I'm sure we're all hearing that from our bosses, and we're like, okay, but where do I start? I installed my Gemini CLI. I got my Claude desktop. Now what? Do I have to go become an ML engineer? Do I have to go learn how to write some complex AI modeling? No. And this all came about because I was at an event, and a lot of folks who were in their early career approached me saying that I feel like I got a degree in computer science or other fields, and I have to shift what I love doing and become a machine learning and a data scientist. Now, nothing wrong with those fields. They're great fields. I know a lot of great engineers who are data scientists, but I myself, I could barely write a SQL query to save my life. So that's why I'm never going to be a data scientist. Well, now I can because I got AI. But the reality of the fact is you don't have to shift for the industry. We should be looking as to how we can take these tools and empower the places that we're in or the things that we love doing. So this is where I say there's a reality check. Go beyond that hype cycle, right? There's data science teams building models. The ops teams, like myself included, felt like, what's in it for us? How do we not get replaced by this, right? That's a scary phrase that we keep hearing. And I'd say that most AI focused on models and not running the infrastructure, the cool part in my opinion. SREs, if you're an SRE engineer or a cloud engineer or a delivery engineer, I had to remind even my own SRE team, you folks are sitting on probably the largest data set your company is or a startup or whatever has access to. Just think of logging or metrics. If you have a metric, a service that emits, let's say, 60 metrics, right, and you collect that every minute, that's a lot of data in a given day, let alone in a year's time. So I'd argue in terms of like data visibility, there's a whole world. You just got to think a little bit differently as to like how we view our data. It's no longer storage in terabytes, it's data points and accessibility of that data. So I'd say we need to move from an AI for thee to an AI for me mindset where we can eliminate toil and accelerate delivery for an organization, and we as cloud or delivery or whatever become culture carriers, right? Essentially, at our company, focus on being the platform that extends that out. For example, how do I word this? Think of it as you can be a change agent and get people to adopt these tools, but more importantly, adopt them in a safe way that works for your companies, right? Or wherever you're at. And lead with a vision. Remember your core principles, like, the whole platform DevOps, like let's not repeat ourselves, keep it simple, stupid. That still all applies. This isn't a race to the bottom of who can make the most complex AI infrastructure, because at the end of the day, the tools that are going to make the most impact are probably going to be the simplest ones. Hey, I do this Excel spreadsheet manually every week, and it takes me an hour every week. But now AI can do it for me automatically, such that I just log in and it's done, right? Always focus on what made you successful as a DevOps team or as a cloud team. So a phrase I like to say is, just as DevOps enhance development and operations, you don't have to be an ML expert to leverage AI. Drive impact in what you enjoy doing by enhancing it and improving it. So, getting started tangibly, I have two things. First, adopt AI pragmatically. Don't just go sprinkle AI on things and hope for the best. Look at how you can embed AI into development workflows. For example, peer reviews or code reviews. In addition to that, figure out ways of doing the annoying bits. Maybe you can streamline not only code reviews, but also some of these security reviews with these tools, right? Or quality testing. Leverage AI in monitoring and analytics. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of data. And then ultimately use AI to help build that infrastructure. At the very least, write the Terraform code that we all love, because we all love YAML. I certainly am not always hopping between my Terraform and the Terraform docs as to how to do it. I will say one thing that's important of all this is measure your impact, because a lot of folks don't see this. And now I would update this to say, measure impact and build your stories. Because remember, not only do you have to measure the impact of what you're doing, but you also have to sell like the investment as to what you're doing. Because guess what? These tools aren't cheap, right? They are expensive. I think I saw an article the other day is when the CFO recognizes the cost of tokens is about the same as, if not more, of the people that they replaced, right? There's a reason. These tools are not necessarily cheap, but they are transformational and they are valuable. So measure things like, is this providing a better experience? Is this saving time? And multiply, are we saving money? All right, on to the tech stuff. I promise I'm not just a boring theoretical guy. We're going to get into some real practical examples. That's the whole point of this talk. So in cloud engineering, there are some core principles of how I think AI should be adopted. First of which is an infrastructure reliability. And then the second of which is architect and scale. And finally, security and governance. All three things that a good cloud engineering team should focus on when it comes to enabling and adopting AI. So first of which, who knows the infrastructure better than the infrastructure team who helped build the platform? Yes, AI is new. Yes, AI has different requirements. We're adding GPUs or potentially larger VMs to our infrastructure. But I can guarantee you right now, the networking challenges and the infrastructure challenges that you've experienced scaling microservices or applications or mobile apps is still going to be the same, and if not more complex. So again, focus on building a reliable infrastructure to make sure that those LLMs are reliable for your company. 2, create well-designed architecture patterns for the company based on how they should adopt things. This is the team to be prepared for the unplanned. Has anyone looked at the Claude status page recently? It looks like a hot mess. What happened to 5 nines? Sorry, Claude, I'm just giving you guys a call out. In general, every LLM is going to experience it. Security and governance. Ensure repeatability and standards, because guess what? These tools are scary and they're going to have access to a lot of things. Who knows best as to how things can talk? Firewalls, IAM policies, network VPCs, and things like that is ultimately going to be the cloud team. Find and prevent exposure before they can happen. So, first things first, as a cloud engineer, you have the responsibility to ensure that AI adheres to your base protocol. Yes, the cloud engineering team ultimately has that responsibility. There's private data, so make sure that you're using enterprise versions of these apps. If you work at a company and you're using ChatGPT free, I guarantee you the free is not as free as you think. assume that all the data that you are uploading into these tools, including Gemini, including Claude Free, are all being used to train and improve their services. So be sure that when you are using these tools, you govern and have a good policy to ensure that you drive enterprise tooling wherever possible. Use AI to audit permissions. For example, you can use AI to look at your logs, and we'll have an example somewhere here of using Gemini CLI to look at logs, and you can now ask questions. Hey, how many times has an editor permission role been used in the last 90 days? Turns out it's never used. Does that application really need editor, or can it be scoped down? Use AI for architectural guidance. Look, there's plenty of topics that come up in a day-to-day. Use it as grounding in terms of architectural guidance of like what your big idea is. And if you're lucky, it can even help you with those pesky diagrams that suck at building. So part of which is, as a cloud engineer, do you expect a new ML and AI team to really understand all of this in one go? Guarantee you not. As a cloud engineer, we know things like SQL, we know things like Spanner, we know things like storage. Sure, we may not know the TensorFlow, we may not know the Vertex AI training, but when you start looking under the hood, there's fields in all these tools that ask for IP ranges, they ask for GPUs, they ask for regions, they ask for compute VMs, and the people who know those answers are the cloud engineering side. So essentially become that source of truth and its COE, Center of Excellence, for your company to help streamline this and ultimately create repeatable patterns so they don't have to keep talking to you if you do it right. Understand the unknown. There is a world, spoiler alert, agents and AI still needs CI/CD and still needs infrastructure. Go figure, because at the end of the day, this has to run somewhere. There's going to have to be processes of promotion and how things deploy, sandbox environments, testing environments, specifically testing environments, and how you sandbox things. Ultimately, like I said earlier, the networking requirements. Who's going to understand that better than anyone else in the cloud team? Understand that those requirements are still going to be set there. How you fracture off Vertex and multiple platforms, how you segment what those agents can and can't do. And there's a QR code if you want to. I'll share the slides after the fact for like a best practices MLOps network architecture. It's a little dated at this point, but one cool demo that I saw, or rather a lab that I saw, was by Christina Lin. And it was basically, they were talking about, developer AI and monitoring AI and quality AI. But I said, well, what about the infrastructure people? So they actually created this like little section here as to what a DevOps person or a platform engineer can do to help a company. So things like creating a CI/CD pipeline, figuring out model armor, because we certainly want to make sure that our prompts don't contain junk, unless you want to become like Chipotle, where you can ask it to write your code for you. I'm sure we all saw that meme by now. Knowing how to load balance LLMs between multiple services, when to call out to different services as well. Again, things that I'd recommend you could do. So I'll also share this after the fact, but there was like a ton of labs for this. To me, these are cool because they were actually practical, and I actually went through them, and you can actually like get your hands dirty with like AI on Google Cloud. And there are some of the tracks there too. Some of them do cost some money. I think the DevOps SRE one does, but the other ones I think are free. But that being said, just make sure you clean up your environment after you're done. So again, I'll share this out after the fact. Another one, I don't know how many of y'all use Terraform in your day-to-day. Use it for IAC automation. Again, this is a very low barrier way of doing it, but with Gemini Code Assist in your IDE, you can ask it basic questions. For example, you are a seasoned cloud engineer who knows Terraform. Provide me an example on how to set up a shared VPC in Terraform with DNS and a cloud router. That simple prompt generated probably what would have taken a fresh start another 30 minutes to an hour, if not more, right? So essentially, this is making the easy part, the easy stuff, just automated, in the sense that get the easy stuff out of the way, get the annoying stuff out of the way, so you can focus on the harder things. Another one that I like a lot is pulling your billing data and creating a detailed billing tool. So, for example, if you're in GCP or Azure or wherever you're at, pull those logs, pull your most recent bill, and toss AI at it. Have it come up with recommendations. Hey, what increased month over month? What are some rules that we could do? Hey, predict the next quarter's based on what I've used in the last 6 months. Predict what I need for the next 4 months, right? Asking questions like that so you can make reserved capacity instances. Again, this is kind of a high level but simple example, but pulling that data down, and even if something as simple as a CSV, we'll be able to generate you something of what I created on the right and I use personally. Cool. So that's AI within cloud engineering. There's plenty of other things that you could do there, but I wanted to shift into AI for site reliability engineering, and I do have some pretty cool demos here in this section. So an SRE. At the end of the day, if you read the Google book on SRE, you are observability and monitoring for the company. There's parts of it that's also incident response and SLO tracking. And then ultimately, a good SRE will make sure that the event doesn't happen again, or at least you can restrict it enough that you can try to prevent it from happening again. So what does that mean? Observability and monitoring, you provide out-of-the-box metrics for your engineers, measure your SLOs to ensure uptime. With an incident response, you got to make sure that you have a strategy for when things go wrong, because they will. Welcome to IT. Things, no matter how perfect you are, something will break. So SRE is site reliability engineering. Folks that make sure that monitoring and alerting and dashboards all exist. This is folks that are monitoring your mobile apps when they crash. Why did it crash? Well, we published a new version. What happened? Oh, we upgraded a library. Of course, everyone's running iOS 18. Oh, you mean that someone is still running iOS 12? Exactly. SRE, keeping a view into things like that. That's obviously the mobile example, but you can do this for websites and applications. And then prevention, learning from what you have, what you are doing, and is there any real-time automation to help solve problems? So Google Cloud has a pretty cool example of this, and this has also gotten a lot better since the screenshot. But here's an example. I ran a query. I was doing some work, and I said, hey, you're a senior SRE with experience in knowledge and troubleshooting. Look at this log file and make a recommendation. The cool thing about this is you can just go in the Google Cloud Console, look at your logs, and just hit explain this log entry. No longer do you have to be a seasoned expert to understand logs. You can just ask natural language queries, natural language things like, I don't understand this, or explain this to me, and get answers. So it's showing, this log entry shows that Joel enabled several services inside this project. This is normal. There's nothing wrong with it. Cool. I don't have to worry about it. It looks scary. I saw a lot of Joel and enablements. I just wanted to make sure this looks like it was expected. All good. The example before, and this is actually super cool. So this is an example of using Gemini CLI, or even just Gemini in general, to look at data that isn't even AI enabled. For some of us, if you have Prometheus metrics or OpenTelemetry metrics, the stuff on the left looks familiar. For those who aren't familiar with it, applications can emit metrics such that they are essentially counters. Think of it as when I have a piece of code and there's a sign in button, right, on my website. When I hit sign in, there's probably something in code that is handling that sign in. You increment a counter such that you can represent that number hour after hour and say how many sign-ins did I get in a 15-minute window, or in an hour, or in a day. You can start aggregating data points. That's one example, but most frameworks nowadays, Python and some .NET, they have baseline metrics that just come out of the box. Things like, show me my 200s, show me my 400s, show me my 500s. And they usually look, if they're structured like open telemetry, something similar to what's on the left. But because you have this data, it's very daunting. I don't even know which metric on the left to start querying. So what I would do, if you don't have it connected, download the metrics and dump it into Gemini and ask it, look at these Prometheus metrics and generate me some queries to debug slow performance issues. And you're able to then create natural language queries to generate the stuff on the right. It'll give you the SQL for you, and it'll, for example, that's kind of what it did for me on the right hand side. It gave me those 2 CPU memory monitoring things. If you're super advanced, you could do automated canary analysis. So for example, think of a case where you do a software deployment, and this is probably a little bit more advanced for the SRE teams out there. They have automation built into their pipelines. When you do a deploy, an SRE team should have an event fire. What if, instead of, obviously you still should have QA, but what if after every deployment, you had a tool that went to go look at not only the current runtime, but the prior application's runtime and compare things like CPU, load times, performance, memory, and show that, hey, is the application getting better or is the application getting worse, right? And if it's trending within the two, you can compare and say, this is a good deployment SRE sign-off. Again, you're becoming kind of a step in a pipeline, whereas before someone would ask, go log into that VM and tell me the performance of that system. Now you can have AI do that for you, and automatically too, and give a report similar to what I'm showing now. This one's super cool, and I talked about it earlier, anomaly detection. SRE teams have a lot of time series data. You can go and query and look for anomalous points in data and use, not really AI, but ML to essentially build within the teams. Again, the main thing of this is not to give things like take away from here, is that think differently. These are all things that we could all probably implement when we give us some thought inside of our environment, inside of our worlds that we live in. So like this dashboard here was just looking at current data and the last week of the same amount of time. And we were able to see that this week from 1 to 2 p.m., there was something that happened, and I don't know why. There was a huge spike in requests. This is not normal. Send an alert. Wake someone up. Tell someone that there's something wrong. Another SRE one is automated post-mortem analysis, and start small. So, if you do it right, most of us have like on-call or alerting, and we get on Teams calls or WebExes or whatever. If you can record those calls become data points, and you can start asking asking AI to call through it. So for example, if you have a transcript of a call recording and of a major outage, you could take that, feed it into an LLM and say, based on this, auto-generate me a post-mortem. Now, is it going to be perfect? Probably not. But I guarantee you, if you take that call recording plus a pre-canned template of like, let's say like an ad lib style of names here, times here, images here, you will be able to take this data from the call recordings plus the data of your template, and it will be able to generate those two things together. And even propose action items out of it too. Most platforms now have this built in, but this is kind of like an easy barrier of entry to create like post-mortem analysis. This is now, we are officially in the era of agents. So think of it like this. And I laid it out in like a few steps to kind of show the thought process as to how you can break down a multi-agent workflow. I'm sure by now, 2026 is the era of agents, and too many of them. But we all know that there could be incidents, right? Alerts, fire, things go down. Fine. But break down the steps that go into an incident. So like step 1, triage. What's going on? Who do I need? What do I need to get into? Step 2, response. Get people on the call. What do I need to kind of pull in to actually to get a call started? Step 3, investigate. Again, I'm saying people, but if you write this in a way, you can say the alert fired, triage the alert and figure out who is the best responding team. From there, kick off an automatic investigation by pulling logs and data, and then potentially, if you're advanced enough, remediate. How many times, I know for a fact that I've worked in a job in my career where every Friday morning I had a 8 a.m. reminder to reboot Prod 03 because for some reason Prod 03 always crashed at 3 p.m. that Friday if it didn't reboot. Again, remediation automatically do that for us. Once it's remediated, verify it and resolve it, and then ultimately write that post-mortem. Again, I would argue anything that's complex and you're saying AI is too hard to do it, break it down to tasks. Because even if, let's say, AI only got us up to a point of an automatic investigation and it was still up to a human to resolve it, I can tell you right now, waking up at 2 a.m. to an automatic investigation telling me exactly what to do so I can get back to bed, spoiler alert, I don't sleep, is probably a better path than not having anything at all. I'll give the demo at the end because it'll kind of combine with delivery engineering too. So yeah, that was now infrastructure and monitoring AI, but delivery engineering, folks and platform engineers, you too have a say in the AI future. So first of which, remember what makes delivery engineering great or developer experience great is you're there to make a good developer experience, a culture of guardrails, not gates. You're there to build a platform that engineering teams can deliver code at a high velocity to the world or to internal customers. You are there to automate and drive efficiency. You're there to simplify implementation details and make sure that you can streamline delivery targets. Don't make it so developers have to learn YAML. If it's done right, developers to deploy to Kubernetes should just be able to click a button, or in some cases have an AI assistant send an API call to do it. The last one is actually interesting because it's kind of a soft one, but you're really kind of the arbiter of collaboration and communication. Delivery, DevOps, whatever have you, breaking down silos, right? That becomes part of the platform because everyone's using a common platform, you can drive collaboration across these tools and connect people together. So you could bring teams that historically were in silos, such as like a security team or quality team, to now work together and foster teamwork across verticals. So first of which, a good use case, this is an example that actually we've done, that I've done, is how many of us have gotten a piece of code in our careers and we're told, now you're responsible for it. Right? And so you're like, let me go look at the README, because obviously we're all great engineers and we love to leave a lexicon so the next person behind us can go and see the data as to how, to run the code, right? And you open the repo and there's nothing. Well, that's pretty common and there's a lot of it. So why not just toss AI at it? Ask Gemini, hey, look at this repo, crawl all my repositories, look at their entry points, and write me a README as to how I could run this code. I guarantee you it'll come up with a better answer than you reading thousands of lines of code. Hell, I might even find some bugs. This one's actually super cool. Using AI inside of internal developer platforms. So for those who don't know, internal developer platforms, IDPs, not to be confused with identity platforms. Sorry for the security folks. I think we crashed on the same short acronym there. But you can provide a level landscape across all these tools such that you give developers a UI, tools, pipelines, and you could start creating best practices to how to create delivery tools, such as like, instead of people just creating brand new repos, they can go to a portal, click create new Python repo, and it will implement all the best practices and standards that you as an organization defined. And on top of it, you can have things like maybe even create infrastructure for you, so you can start delineating that responsibility to your engineers. I'm giving a call to folks at Port. They're figuring out like how to connect agents into a context lake, because all these tools are now connected into these tools. You just built the world's largest, well, you built your organization's largest AI factory. Kind of going back to this, imagine implementing something with AI at the top level here because you already connected GCP, because you connected your Azure environment, because you connected your Postgres environment or whatever, and your Python code. You can probably ask it questions like, using the Python repository, create me a piece of code that uploads a file to GCS every night at 8 p.m., Google Cloud Storage. Because it knows your Google Cloud environment, it knows where to create buckets. Because you gave it the data as to how to create Python projects and all the things, you can ask those kind of natural language queries. I'd also argue that there's similar to the DevOps flow is you have to break down the golden path for your organization. So think of it as a Jira ticket, which now this is kind of walking through like kind of software development and product intake. But if a delivery team can instrument this, imagine a world where you create a ticket, ServiceNow, Jira, I don't care, whatever platform you're in, create a product plan automatically with AI, kick that product plan and review it after review to a tech planning agent. From that tech planning agent, you lay out all the things that it can and can't do, have it write the code for you. This is the stuff that we know, AI writing code, duh, that's what we have right now. Once you're done writing that code, review the code for security holes or quality tests, and then ultimately pass it off to a final review for a human in the loop, and then get it out there to the world, deploy it, right? Breaking down the idea of something as simple of, hey, today my company only has a website, but I really want an iOS app. You can now use this kind of workflow and do it. So really, platform dev engineers and cloud and whatever go from just becoming platform engineers, working with developers on a golden path, to bringing in everybody to your golden path, including SRE, security, and product. So with that, how much time am I doing? All right, cool. So I want to dive away from the slides a little bit and actually go to something like tangible. So I'm going to share, and sorry, I'm going to take a seat because my butt is hurting. I'm going to share some real world examples of using the Gemini CLI because I'm pretty sure we're all bored of watching Joel just talk on slides. So I'm going to clear this out. I've already set up my environment and I'll also send the guideline here in the chat. So I don't expect anyone to follow along now, but you can follow along later on your own time. So for those who are familiar with MCPs, Google Cloud is now MCP native in a lot of their offerings. So today I'm going to be showing an example of using the Gemini CLI to do an investigation without me opening my console. I'm just going to get this example here because I've already done it. But first things first, you have to set up your logging MCP. So there's a whole prerequisite of like getting logged in and stuff like that and enabling MCP servers. But if you open your settings file on your computer and fill in the project ID, I'm going to go ahead and simulate some log entries in my environment. So I'm going to copy this. So all I'm doing here is just writing standard log entries. System boots, high pressure, SQL connection, permission denied, failed. Because I wired up the MCP server to my Gemini client, when my Gemini client boots, and I do something like MCP list, you'll see the tools that I have accessible to my interface. Right now I have access to the logging MCP from Google, as well as the developer knowledge MCP from Google. So it can actually go look at the docs and make recommendations. Such that I could say something like, show me the 3 most recent log entries from the log named MCP log. What is the highest severity issue you see? I'm prompting it. And because I connected my GCP project to my MCP server here, it's walking through it. It's saying, I'm going to start by checking the code. I'm going to allow for the session. Yes. I'm having to prompt it, and it's thinking. It got back the response from my logs, And it's saying the most three recent log entries are payload failed to connect to SQL, high memory pressure detected in US Central A, and system boot failure. Now from here, you could take this and say things like, give me some steps to debug error Cloud SQL failure. Again, I'm deviating from the demo because I want to see what it could do too. So from there, you can start saying, hey, to debug this, here are some recommendations. Make sure the IAM permissions are fixed. Check connection methods and networking. Validate credentials. Verify the logs. And you can continue to ask questions of this and saying like, actually, I don't think I connected the MCP for that one there. But you can use kind of lookups to say, hey, do I have databases in this project? And things of that nature. Another one that's actually very popular is, I don't know about you, but oftentimes I don't remember all the G-Cloud commands out there. So you can ask it, I want to create a storage bucket using the modern command. Search the documentation and give me an example for a bucket called Joel test in the US Central A region. Again, the context is key here. It's going to ask, can I have permissions to use the tools? This is important. Don't always YOLO mode. I know what I'm doing here, and I know it's a very tight mode demo, but don't go YOLO mode. Allow all could sometimes be destructive. And right there, to create a bucket named Joel test in the US Central 1 region, run this command. And you can have it execute that if you'd like to. I'm not going to do it right now. This one is actually super cool too. I'm going to have to do a quick Control-C, Control-C. There's a Python script that we wrote that just kind of just creates what's it called? A sample data for the platform. So I'm going to go ahead and do Python 3, simulate errors, -- project. Cool. I wrote some log entries there. I'm going to go ahead and launch Gemini again. Obviously, in a real world environment, you don't have to simulate errors. Our code's generated enough problems already. So I wrote I need to troubleshoot the most recent issues in my projects. Perform the following autonomous loop. Retrieve information using the logging MCP to retrieve the 5 most recent errors. For each error, extract the service and log message. Again, I'm not even writing code here. I'm just talking to it. Then step 3, research it using the developer knowledge that I talked about earlier, and then consolidate everything into a markdown table, into a pretty table so we can actually decipher it. So let's see what it does. So I'm going to allow it for this session. Another one. And allow it to search, yes. There's ways of also automating that, by the way, to like always just accept or be safe. So right now it went to the docs, it found things based on my errors, and it created a table. It looks like my most recent project has 3 errors. There's an issue with secret manager of access denied. Grant the identity this permission. So like how to grant permissions. Cloud Run. My service failed to start. It's listening on port 8080. Ensure your application is running on the right port. Set the right port environment variable. Cloud Storage. You failed to upload a file. Grant storage object creator to the role that had a permission issue. So again, this is kind of how we as cloud and infrastructure people can use AI in our workflows to help empower us and solve the problem. Because otherwise, I'd be going to a console, clicking, searching, scrolling. Oh, let me remember that log line. Here, you're also getting a nice pretty table that you could share with your team or whoever you're working with. And there's plenty of other little demos in that environment, like you could play with the map stuff, but I just want to kind of show these logging examples because I think they were kind of cool. So let me get back to it. I get it now. AI, do that AI thing. Just sprinkle AI on. That's what I've been saying this whole time, right? Well, here's the reality of the fact is in 2025, despite $30 to $40 billion of enterprise investment into this, and that number is only growing higher. If anyone has to guess, go look at how much Google has invested into Claude in the past month. A surprising 95% of that are getting zero return. That's a lot of money being burnt. And don't take that from me, take that from MIT. So it's not always positive. 40% of the workers feel like they're just dealing with slop. Folks are feeling that it's taking longer in some cases. The cost of incidents is growing. And then the cost of AI at a platform and a company is extremely expensive. So it's all based on real data from BetterUp here. We have to measure. So that's kind of what I say. So Joel, you spent the last hour talking about how we should adopt AI. So we should stop using it? No, there are benefits. However, be smart as to how you apply them. For example, don't chase the hype. Stick to your engineering principles. A common thing that I've seen is, look, the AI assistant is creating tons of pull requests. It must be doing great. It's writing tons of code. Well, has anyone done the research as to how many pull requests actually drove impact? No, not at all. Because I guarantee you, if your code is writing pull requests for the thing it just opened a pull request for, the thing that it opened a pull request a week ago, that opened a pull request about a month ago, did it actually solve anything, or are we just kind of cycling through the same problem, right? So a measure that I'd say engineering teams should consider is how much of the code is rework, right? But again, positively measure how much of the code is AI assisted as well. Again, it's not all negative, but be mindful of the ghost in the machine just kind of spinning in cycles and just doing work that's arbitrarily nothing and has no value. I like this phrase because someone said it. Avoid pitfalls, think for yourselves, but beware of hallucinations. LLMs, despite how crazy powerful they are, however many numbers get added after the dot release, they are still going to have hallucinations and they can make mistakes. LLMs are like 5-year-olds. They have the potential to do anything and everything in the world. They could go become a chef. They could become a pilot or an astronaut. However, don't forget that 5-year-olds in their day have imaginary best friends and they lie. With that, be the pilot, leverage AI with high agency to avoid those, not just to avoid work. Don't be the person who just says, Claude's down, guess my day is done. No, find a way that AI is meaningfully driven in your day-to-day workflows. Add checkpoints. In some of the demos and the slides earlier, I had a lot of validation checkpoints and automated flows. I'm not just saying let's point Claude or Gemini at our production database and lose data, right? I'm saying add checkpoints to the work that you're doing as part of that as well. And then ultimately, just like, don't be like me on the Gemini CLI demo here. Don't just always allow. Review what it's about to do. Understand why it's going to be making that recommendation and before you implement it. So some things in your toolbox to take away. Gemini CLI, Gemini Code Assist, and Anti-Gravity are great from a development perspective, getting in the hands of an engineer. Pair program, so you could write things like, it's your pair programmer to help write things like Terraform, to write unit tests, to write Bash scripts in Python. Gemini Enterprise and Cloud Assist inside of the environment that is meeting you where you're at. So instead of building a chat interface to go talk to your things, you're embedding experiences inside of your platforms for people to use. So people can go and ask questions and connect to Jira, or people can go into the console and click, describe this for me. And the one on the far right, if you're advantageous enough, is look at things like Vertex AI and the Model Garden and how to train models. You don't have to be an expert to train and use models. There's a lot of built-in things as to how you can train on your own data and build predictive analytics. So a roadmap on implementation, and sorry, I just want to make sure I'm good on time. Yep, I'm good. First of which is, number one, enable AI for your teams through roads in the software delivery lifecycle. So for most companies, that means go buy yourself a Gemini CLI subscription or an Anti-Gravity subscription or GitHub Copilot or whatever. Get it in the hands of your engineers such that they can start driving meaningful gains. From there, implement it into the IDE and your CI/CD processes, leveraging tools like Gemini Code Assist and Anti-Gravity. Number 2, pilot. Find a non-critical service, something that you won't get in too much trouble if it breaks, because guess what? It can and will break. And sometimes even the AI is right and it's going to patch things. Like maybe the right thing is we shouldn't be running an outdated version of a library that has a vulnerability that has been knownly exploited and causes a problem. But because you patched it, you also just killed 50% of your customers who are on an older version of the device. Again, not saying to keep things insecure, but you also have to figure out how to communicate to your customers. So figure out a way to pick a non-critical service, look at things like AI for metrics, logs, and runbooks, and measure that impact. Which goes to the next one, measuring that impact. Track the time saved somehow. Whether you put it in a ticket, the time taken, or track the look at logs. Measure the real impact, because this, spoiler alert, is what's going to get investment from your C-level people. They don't care about how much code you're writing. They care about how much money and how much you're saving and how much you're not impacting your customers. Finally, you've established a plan. You've got a few services in your belt. You are now ready to scale. Before you go blindly into it, scale out with things like human in the loop. Yes, you can have it deploy automatically, but maybe before you do, review what it's about to deploy, right? I see some questions, but I'll make sure I get through the content and I'll come back to that question. AI is always improving. Some key takeaways is AI is always improving and it's not done. It's only going to get better. I really want everyone to not be the AI denier. Be an AI skeptic always, but don't be an AI denier. It puts you all at risk. I think it's something that we are all in our careers or our lifetime. It is going to be pivotal to it. I think it is going to be here to stay. Respect history and pain of how we got here, but understand that why you're using it in a specific area. This one kind of goes out to the way I started this call. There's no, I'll go to an old Dr. Seuss quote. There's no one more youer than you. Bring AI into your workflows. You don't have to change your career to go be an AI expert out there. I just gave you at least 8 to 10 examples, if not more, how you can use AI in your workflow. You can continue being that cloud engineer and be a kick-ass AI engineer as well. And just like the initial DevOps days, like when DevOps first started, experiment and fail fast. Measure that impact, be strategic, and show value. Remember when we all started DevOps and were like showing velocity charts and time to deploys and things like that? Apply those same principles here. And then ultimately have fun, be creative, and go forth and build. Go make your own spaghetti Will Smiths out there. You thought he was gone for the day, huh? No. And obviously iterate and improve. So with that, I'm going to shift it over to Q&A. We are at the 3-minute mark before the 7 o'clock mark. I want to be respectful of people's time. I could stay a little bit late. But first of which, there's my contact info. Yeah. So let me look at the chat. Cool. Actually, before I do the chat, Scott and GDG Cleveland, thank you again for having me here as well. I really appreciate it. Hopefully this was valuable. That did a lot of talking, and I really couldn't read the room. Hopefully if you're asleep, at least you're at home or you're somewhere where you're not stressed out. But Gary, you said, do you use sandboxed agents like OpenClaw or something similar for code? OpenClaw is interesting in the sense that it took the world by storm. And then quickly afterwards, people realized they just opened a giant tunnel for the world to hack them at. I think pretty much as soon as I saw people set up OpenClaw, there was literally a website where it was every OpenClaw target that was scanned on the internet. So with that, I strongly suggest folks to consider how they sandbox their code. So this is where things like model armor or your agent's scope come into play. So that means that you do not allow it to leave the sandbox of your environment, or you try to lock it down enough that it can only do the specific things that you've asked, or at least you put enough guardrails. Thanks, John, for coming. So I would, yes, definitely. I mean, I don't personally use OpenClaw. I use things like Claude Code a lot. I use Gemini CLI. Anti-gravity is actually pretty dope. in the sense that I can use, I have a few agents, for example, that do things like every morning when I open my IDE, it goes and does the latest pull and looks at the code and runs a set of tests just to make sure that nothing kind of snuck in overnight that I didn't expect. That's something that historically I would have to do, but because I have an agent in my IDE, it's automatic. Every time I write a piece of code, save it, validate that the logic looks good, hell, maybe even write my unit tests. I do think that like the concept of like what OpenClaw was of creating a giant agent like that is kind of an anti-pattern. Instead, we're going to start seeing segmented agents become easier to write. I mean, we're seeing it already. I mean, some people that are writing agents aren't even developers. I just this week I was meeting with our HR AI team, and they aren't developers. They are traditional AI operations people, or sorry, HR operations people who handle tickets on, hey, my payroll isn't updated and things like that. And they wrote an agent to help categorize and look at tickets inside of their work queues. So there's definitely like, while it is very appealing to have a pocket assistant, I do think that it's going to become a commodity. I do think that there's a lot of value in it. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not cool. I mean, I spun up an OpenClaw server. But I think at a certain point, we are going to start asking, what are we doing and the purpose of how we trigger things. So, and I mean, honestly, like, yes, like an agent where you can use Telegram to talk to it, but do you really think that like Siri or Gemini on your phones or whatever are not gonna, or Bixby or whatever Samsung uses, isn't going to become and solve that? You don't think that there's going to be a world where those things are eventually going to want to do that? And do you really want to run it yourself? I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. It gave us the world's best excuse to go tell our wives or significant other to go buy a Mac Mini. But at the end of the day, sorry, but if you go try and buy a Mac Mini if you don't get that right now, you'll see why. I like to think that it's going to become, in my opinion, somewhat of a commodity, at least at the enterprise scale. So hopefully that answers the question, Gary. Sorry, that was a long-winded way of saying, do I use it? No. Cool. Question from Chancer. How much are you concerned about token efficiency? Do you use simple models and then have more advanced models review the work? And you have a peer review? 1,000%. 1,000%. You totally should. In fact, a shout out to the Claude folks, and I believe this is also in Gemini CLI. There is a model that most people don't know called Opus Plan. So what that means is it uses Opus for the plan, for the hard thinking component when you're talking to it. So create me a website that I could sell dog treats at. It's going to go think about the best framework to write that website in. It's going to go research and do analysis a bunch as to what to do for logins and the checkout experience. But when it comes to writing code, look, software developers writing code is not really the hardest thing in the world. It's just a matter of following docs, reading some methods, and doing it, right? So use lower models to do it. I've definitely seen cases where you've used that, use it, whether it's automated or not. Remember, these high efficiency models don't always have to be the number one thing you go. And if you could find a way to route those LLMs, there's things like LLM gateways that help do this for you today, like Light LLM or Bifrost or Agent Gateway, that help do inference as to where to route that request to. So definitely an advanced topic for the cloud engineers on the talk earlier. That's stuff that you folks could also be driving for your organization, because guess what? Most people aren't going to be thinking about how to have high availability when and if Claude goes down, because guarantee you OpenAI or Claude or Gemini is going to have a problem, and I guarantee you your customers aren't going to care. They're going to want something that's still functional and working, and that's how you folks can help be a hero. Hopefully that answers your question, Chancer. I think what you're saying is totally right on the money. And ultimately it also saves you money too. All right. Any other questions? Cool. So before I go, I'm going to share these slides so you can all follow along at home. And in fact, Gemini CLI. Yes. I would strongly suggest folks when they're using these tools to look at things like plan mode as well. I saw upwards of 12 folks, Scott, on the call at one point. Obviously now it's been about an hour and a half. We're about 7 right now. But that's great. Great attendance, folks. I really appreciate folks for such a short notice event coming here and chatting along. But you can find me again on my socials. Connect with me on LinkedIn or X. I'm always happy to chat. If you're in the city of Chicago, it's a great city. Here and always for you. So, Scott, if there's no other questions, I think I'm going to close up the stream. All good? Cool. No worries, Scott. I'm always happy to help out another GDG in any way I can. So, folks, thank you so much and have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, great rest of your year. Go forth, build, and do great things. See you, everybody.